Welcome, friends, to episode 279 of Color of Magic, your Magic Gaming podcast where we talk about all types of issues that affect gamers at and away from their gaming tables and computers. I am your host, PowrDragn, and for 279 episode, still got my main man not having to creep out from the shadows. Brian Sonic, how's it going, dude?
Dude, was I going to be creeping? Where are you going with this?
Well, we have some Assassin's Creed shadows to talk about later in the
Okay.
episode. But yeah, this is actually a pretty crazy week because we've got all kinds of stuff. We've got Magic stuff, Smash Brothers, some Konami stuff, some Magic content creator things, Assassin's Creed stuff. There was a lot that went down this last week. So yeah, hang around because there's a lot to talk about. But if you want to support the show, don't forget you can go over to patreon.com/color of magic and you can get a shout out just like Marcel MTG. Thank you for being a patron, a longtime patron, by the way. But our lead story this week is about cheating in card games. Like, it seems to be a thing that's never going to go away. It's been around as long as we can remember. We've each dealt with it, seen it, whatever, at different events. But this particular one kind of goes to show how comfortable people can be about it. There was a player by the name of Connor Pattinson who was playing in one of the NRG series, I believe one of their $10,000 events this past week. It was a standard event, and a couple of content creators have already covered this. So if you want to go see a more in-depth thing, you can go look at Pleasant Kenobi or Saffron Olive over on MTG Goldfish. She covered it well as well.
And there's
Two
somebody
really good
that did
videos.
like almost like the Zapruder film where they went frame by frame. I think a couple of their videos have referenced that Google document where they show where he's trying to palm or transfer the cards. It just, you talk about how long it's been going on. I thought when we got so much, basically, you might as well say TV coverage because we're cameras, I thought that would stop it, but no, it's still.
No, but I think the thing is, to me, this is the same thing, and we talked about this off the air, but I tell retailers the same thing, that if you catch somebody shoplifting, it's rarely their first time.
Right.
It's because they've gotten comfortable and they've gotten lazy and they've just gotten used to it, assuming they weren't going to get caught, and you caught them. Right? Even when I had my shop, I assumed if I caught somebody, and it's probably at least 2 times prior before I caught them. Just might not always be true, but a couple of them I did admit to it wasn't the first time. So it probably is a thing.
For my line of work, if you catch somebody, like faking quotes, yeah, they've done that before, and they just
they have
get caught.
But yeah, this is one of those cases where if you watch the film, there's some combination of either retrieving cards from their lap or from their coat. I don't know which, depending on how you view it, how you look at it, it could be either or. But there's even some spots on camera where you can see the same color of sleeve they're using and in their hand. You can see a corner sticking out from somewhere else that isn't on the table. So, like, there's extra cards somewhere that there don't need to be.
And you see, like, I think one of those things, the planes just basically comes from nowhere. Because you can, at this point, you've seen what the cards are in his hand if you're watching the broadcast.
Yeah.
And then just a planes materializes from nowhere.
And it's always going to be a tough thing, right? Because we've seen this forever. And some people are like, oh, Magic has it worse than other games. It's like, in my experience, I wouldn't say it's particularly true. I've seen it, and hell, I've caught people running when we're running events for different games. But Magic has a lot more significant events than other games, right? Like we have the NRG series.
A lot more eyes on it, also.
That's also true. A lot of content creators.
There's probably somebody somewhere ripping off people at their Lorcana tournaments, but you're not hearing about it because it's not getting the same level of coverage and they're not giving away as much money.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, right? The bigger the prizes on a regular basis, the more motivation somebody's going to have, right? And we see that because every MagicCon has a bunch of big tournaments, right? Like we have the NRG series that's doing 5,000 and 10,000 term. Hell, we had the Hunter Burton Memorial a couple weeks ago. That's a big, I think, $15,000, something or other, right? Like, and side events that are $1,000 and $5,000, right? So on one weekend, you could play 4 or 5 different tournaments that is giving away $1,000 worth of prizes, right? We see it with the Spotlight series. We see it with some of the qualifiers and things have extra prize stuff. Like, so, and conventions are also doing some cash tournaments at some of these different conventions. So like you just have a lot of opportunity there
And
for Magic.
also the more content creators, because like I didn't hear about this from a news site. I think I heard about it on Magic Twitter, and
Yeah.
then it got picked up by other people. But the first time I saw it, I think was I want to say I think it was Saffron Olive was the first one that I saw talking about it. Then I clicked on it and started to let me find out more about this. And
Yeah, and what I'm hearing, and now I'm not going to name anybody so their companies aren't out there or whatever, because nothing may come of this. But there have at least been discussions between different people, stores, TOs, that some people could end up just being blacklisted from playing in their events. Because one of the things
yeah,
is while there's not an official, and I'm using quotes for those of you that are just listening, ban list of players, players can still be banned from facilities or organizations.
yeah,
So in the event that I have banned somebody, say, from my store because they've previously shoplifted or harassed somebody or whatever, they're no longer allowed to play. Even though it might be a Wizards RCQ event, they cannot play in it in my store. So
because at the end of
if
the day, it's
somebody,
your store, your rules.
yeah, but the same thing applies. If I'm running an event at a convention center and I'm the one in charge and you're not allowed to play in my events, that sucks to be you. So if a couple of TOs go, hey, we busted this dude for cheating, here's all our proof, and you agree with it, you can just be like, well, I don't want to at my events either. You
Yep.
know, like,
And I put a pin in that because we're going to talk about that more a little bit later
yeah,
too.
that's a thing too, right? Like it's just layers and layers of stuff this week. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. I encourage people to always be vigilant when you go play anything competitive. I mean, hell, even playing disc golf, there's people like they're right on the edge out of bounds. They want to get an extra couple of inches or whatever so they can get a better throw or better footing. Like whatever you're doing, if there's prizes, somebody's going to be looking for an edge, right? You have to pay attention to that stuff.
And before we move on, since we talked about penalties, like does Wizards weigh in on this? Do they like do they ban Connor from any events, or how does that process
The
work?
judges and the organizers do. They
Okay,
just outright. Now, in this event, I don't know if they caught it at the time. This was kind of after the fact, people watching the coverage
yeah,
and the footage, so I'd have to follow up. I would assume after the fact, if they caught him, they're also we've seen before when this stuff has happened. So I'm not going to talk about this instance because I don't know the actual resolution, but we have seen before when people have gotten caught, even after the fact, they have denied them their prizes or not let them participate in future events. So like there's definitely penalties for it by the TO and whatever when they get caught. So it's not like you get away scot free. And of course, you're now all over the internet. So
also that.
everybody that knows you now knows, or in your local store now knows, or whatever. So that's a whole thing.
And I mean, I've had people pull me aside and be like, "Hey, not this particular person in there, this particular game," but I be like, "Hey, watch this dude," because
Hmm.
once word gets around, they
Oh
say
yeah,
you never get
people
a
know.
second chance to make a first impression, and
Not just that. I remember people would know, and then you'd usually have one or two other people come watch their games more often.
also that people
Like,
would stand behind you, but hey, so
yep. I mean, just
judge,
watching.
you know,
Yep. You gotta though, right? Once you respect it, it's like, okay, well, this might be a thing. And as an example, we had a player, oh, I forgot his name right off the moment, but who had been busted for magic. And that habit carried over to when he started playing poker over the last couple years.
wow,
Because he pretty much got exiled from the magic community,
as you would expect,
went on to play some poker, and recently got banned from the poker houses in Texas
wow,
because he was on camera cheating. Right. And it's like, bruh. And the crazy part, though, now the way I understand the story, which is even better, is one of the guys in charge of that particular poker house where he got busted is a former Magic player, so he already knew who the dude was when they pointed him out to him, and he was like, "Oh yeah, that dude."
there's a lot of
Yeah,
crossover between poker and magic, as I've learned.
yeah. So he's like, "Oh, that guy for sure." Like they saw the footage, like, "Yeah, out of here." Like so,
And
yeah,
I forgot the name, but wasn't there somebody like a well known pro that got caught cheating, but was able to, after he served his ban, come back and
yeah. That's happened before. Back, and this is years ago when they actually had the active ban list or whatever. You would have like lengths of sentence
yeah,
effectively. So you'd be banned for like a year or 2 years or whatever. And some guys had to make amends, to get to be accepted by the community again. Because don't get me wrong, I do think there's some level of, you get busted when you're, I don't know, 17, 18, you're an idiot,
Yeah.
young kid, whatever. You realize how stupid it was. You didn't get to play Magic for 2 or 3 years. You come back and you're like, "Hey, look, I know what I did was effed up. Hold me to it. Ain't gonna happen again." Whatever. Which is
Like,
fine. I think everybody deserves some
yeah.
amount of reconciliation or whatever there. But
And like we talked about last week, who knew, 20 years ago that we'd still be playing Magic 20 years later?
that's a good point too, right? Like, fortunately I didn't, but I could have seen a situation where I was like, well, this is one time I'm playing for a bunch of money. This game probably gonna be around in 5, 10 years, whatever. Anyway, F it,
Yeah.
right? And just go for it. Turns out here we are 25 years, 30 years later, going
Because
like,
certainly most of the, as I've mentioned before, that's how I ended up playing Magic, is because I played 15 other card games that didn't make 3 years in a lot of cases. Like, I'm tired of this. I guess I'm investing in Magic,
yeah, and the game's still around, right?
right?
So yeah, this is a tough thing. I don't think this should be a thing that deters people from playing or competing at the higher level because, to be honest, for the most part, the judges and the staff do still do a pretty good job,
Yeah.
catching people, regulating things. If you bring it to somebody's attention, they will check it. Just every once in a while, there are people like this, but fortunately, the community is pretty vigilant. The community is pretty well connected, and when stuff like this happens, it becomes a story. So
And I was gonna say that's part of why, obviously also you just don't want people cheating in general, but also imagine it's probably somebody he played and cheated that found out later, and that might have been their first or second tournament.
yeah,
And if that happens to
absolutely.
you in your first tournament, it's going to leave a bad taste in your mouth. You're not going to probably want to do that again. So it's why it is so important. One of the many reasons it's so important to catch people cheating and weed them out, because again, we want more people to play. Like we talked about with Universe Beyond, we are getting a lot more new players, people that may have never even played a card game before, and you want them to have a good experience.
Yeah, that's very true. I think that's one thing too when we talk about, you know, bringing new people in and how to treat it and everything else. Like that is one thing too. Like you have to try to negate a lot of those negative experiences because some of them won't come back.
Yeah.
Right? Like I've told you before, we've had customers walk in that literally would not have come into my store if they didn't already know somebody else who was a customer who brought them in because they had a bad experience at a local game store one time and they just didn't go into another one for like 5 years, which is crazy, but that's how people see it, right? You had one bad that's what all game stores are, so there's not gonna come back. Same thing here. It could be, well, that's what all Magic tournaments are, so I'm not coming back.
Because we
You know?
battle so many stereotypes, about people being rules lawyers, people trying to take the fun out of it, you know, bad hygiene, you name it. There's a list of stereotypes a mile long that we already have to battle. So we got to work that much harder to make sure people have positive experience and know that, no, all stores are not like that. All players are not like that. All tournaments are not like that.
Yep. Oh, the player I couldn't remember, his name was Alex Bertoncini. That was the
Okay.
guy. That
Right,
was the guy I
I
couldn't remember.
could not think of it because
Yeah.
we're grayer gamers. We can sometimes remember things, but we can't remember the thing. Like that guy,
Man,
that
bro, I
guy that did that thing. No, I don't know that
I have my
guy.
phone and the internet, so I don't have to remember stuff no more. Like,
Right?
that's the rules.
It's crazy though that I think we did both have the same guy in our heads. We just couldn't think of the guy's
Oh, man.
name.
Alright, let's get into the soapbox because I have a little bit of a rant today. This one, and I'm gonna try to be polite, but some of y'all, I don't even know how I'm gonna word this, but some of y'all need to just chill out. Y'all need to have some level of chill because there are some folks, and I've done this a couple of times in the last week because I was thinking about talking about it on the show, that I have seen just show up in some comment sections or just post a thing just to be negative for no good. Like it's a very positive thing that they're viewing, but they're just wanting to be negative. But then I go follow, and that's what they're just doing on a lot of videos or a lot of posts they're seeing. And I'm like, what is going on in your life? And don't get me wrong, world is messed up, right? There's a lot of stuff people are dealing with, and there's a lot of uncertainty, and I get it. But what makes you want to just go find somebody having a good time and try to tear something down? Like today is a good example. Like earlier before we recorded this, Marvel rolled out this thing with what they call Chair Day or something or whatever, and they were showing all the chairs of the different actors, and it was basically just a big thing to say like Avengers Doomsday is now in production or whatever. And people are like, I don't know why they brought this actor back, or I don't know why this thing. I'm like, dude, it's just a fun promotional video. Like, what are you even like all caps typing like angry about? Like, bro, what's even happening? I saw a video the other day. A guy was showing 10 different ways or basketball skills that to master or whatever. On skill number 6, he basically does the whole exercise but doesn't complete the very end of it. And they're like, "Oh, well, you couldn't even do all of them. Why are you showing them?" Blah. And it's like, really? That's your
Like,
takeaway?
could
The
you
dude shows
do any of those things?
Yeah, I'm like, the dude shows you 10 things, and at the literally the very end of the 6th thing, like the ball bounces away from or whatever, and they're gonna tear that down. And I'm like, and for me personally, right? I had a video just the other day. Everything was great. I explained what I wanted to do and why, whatever. It worked. I won the game, whatever. They're still like, well, you should have done this instead of this, and that was such a dumb plan, and blah blah. I'm like, bro, you're still mad about a video I posted 4 days ago. I'm not even thinking about that. I have moved on. I won the game anyway. I don't care. Like what? Like that's your takeaway from the video. You watched a whole video, and your takeaway is like, well, actually, like that's what you got. Like, come on, man. But again, doing my sleuthing. This is also somebody else. They're just angry on a bunch of videos. And I'm like, hell, there's one dude I see because, I watch some basketball stuff. And if I can't catch the game, I'll catch like the Lakers highlights on YouTube or whatever. There's a dude who will literally post, like, he spam posts under every person who comments that he doesn't agree with because they're like, big fan of, the Lakers winning or whatever. It's something insulting Luca or LeBron or something or whatever. Just like, dude, really? Like, that's what you do. You're sitting at home waiting for the game to be over. So you can go on the Lakers highlight video and just copy paste a spam post. Yeah,
Hate.
for real. Dude, just drinking haterade 24/7. I'm like, how? What's wrong with you people?
Not just the president of the Haters Club. I'm also a client.
Yeah, apparently. Because I'm just like, dude. And the worst part is, you're not even doing good trolling or hate. It's just like, you know what I mean? If
That's
you're
the
being
worst.
funny
Yeah.
or like whatever, cool. Like, at least I could, like,
Yeah, if you're doing
okay.
roast stuff, like, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Put some effort into the hate. Like, you just,
Give me some Lisa Lampanelli, some Jeff Ross. Okay, yeah, I'll laugh with you.
you're just
You
picking
even
the
talk
most.
about me. I'll laugh with you if it's funny.
Yeah, even if you're taking shots at me, I'm good with it. But you're just picking like a random thing to be mad at that's irrelevant. Like that's not, if like I said before, if you had something funny about what I said or like my accent or whatever, like cool. I deserve it. I get it.
We
Like
both,
whatever.
yeah, y'all have talked about me and saying sorcery or however. And
Yeah, exactly. I get it. That's funny, whatever. But it's just the most irrelevant things. And I'm thinking, you are literally spending your downtime to watch things that are recommended to you that you should technically enjoy.
right.
But then your thing is to just take a shot at everything you're seeing.
But then again, maybe they literally enjoy haterade. It's like
I mean,
they're not happy unless they have talked trash about somebody.
I
And
guess the literal definition of doom scrolling. I'm just
yeah,
I'm just gonna say hate all day.
hey,
Like,
it's 7 a.m. I ain't peed in nobody's cornflakes yet. I'm having a terrible day right
yeah,
now.
exactly. I'm just like, that's such a weird way to live. I just like, I get it. People do. I see it all the time. But it's such a weird.
Squidward.
Yeah, it's just such a weird mindset to have. Like how are you mad at somebody's dog video where they're just like letting their dog try different foods?
Right.
Like what?
Pure
Oh,
joy.
you're a terrible owner. That dog's gonna be fat and blah blah. Like one, you could look at the dog and tell it's probably 10 years old and ain't fat yet, so they're doing
Right.
fine. Like you're just trying to find something to be mad at somebody about. Like, come on, stop. Like, literally, put your phone down, shut down your computer, go for a walk. Enjoy the outdoors. Like, get some fresh air. Like, take a break, man. As coach says, walk it off. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like something. Because that's just crazy to me. Like, it is wild that people are living like, and again, I'm not crazy. Like, I understand people are dealing with a lot. And you might have a lot of negativity going on. You might be, hell, you might have recently just been fired for no point at all, as the way things are going right now. You might be worried about prices going up on things or whatever. You might be struggling with it. I get it. But you ain't got to take it out on everybody else. Like, try being positive for a change. You'd be amazed what that does for your life. But all right, that aside, let's talk about what we learned this week. There's a few different things, and one's a little sad, one's a little surprising. So why don't you go?
Yeah, I guess this is where we kind of give the warnings because we are going to talk about suicide and mental health and some
Yeah,
uncomfortable
you might want to fast forward
topics.
about 6 7 minutes. Yeah,
But a Smash Bros. Player who went by, well, probably best known by the name of Hax, played Fox, Captain Falcon, and some of the lower tier characters. He has passed away at the age of 30, and it's very obviously, especially talking about somebody that's 30 years old and not here anymore. That's already
yeah,
just wild. And it's not been confirmed exactly the cause of death, but it is well known in the Smash Bros. Community and been reported that he had attempted suicide a couple of times. And apparently, one of the times actually attempted to kill himself by jumping in front of a train and ended up losing his leg in that attempt. So again, this is a guy that has been going through it, been struggling for a long time. And as I mentioned earlier, we're talking about people being in communities and then having to be removed from those communities because apparently he had gotten this feud with another player known as Leffen. And if you're familiar with him, Leffen, by his own admission, refers to himself as the villain of Smash Bros. He plays that role. He talks trash. But anyway, there was a big rivalry between the two of them, and it got to the point where they just could not be in the same place at the same time. Hacks could really not let it go. And apparently, a lot of the community organizers said, look, you can't keep behaving this way. They ended up having to ban him. And it was pretty much all the council of organizers that run Smash Bros. Tournaments. So it turned it essentially an effective ban from playing Smash Bros. Melee competitively anywhere. But it was what had to be done because he was doing these long, unsubstantiated videos accusing Leffen of all kinds of crazy things. And at one point, he had a 130 some odd page document listing all Leffen's alleged crimes. So yeah, this is obviously some behavior that they just a group of his peers decided this can't continue. We can't have this. And I mean, it's we're having a lot of uncomfortable conversations in the Smash Bros. Community right now. Those of you that have followed for a long time know that my kids play Smash Bros. Occasionally, competitively, but to say there's a lot of drama in this community is putting it mildly.
yeah. There seems like there's a couple of things a year that come out of there, but you know, I to your point, it's a tough situation because I've dealt with that, and I talk with other retailers who deal with this regularly, where you have a customer or player or whatever who is struggling with something. Like, even if they don't tell you, you can see the signs and stuff's going on, but also can't have them there harassing other people, making
Exactly.
everybody uncomfortable, you know. And I've dealt with a few of those situations. One of them I even remember where I set the person down and said, "Hey, look, dude, I get it. You've been coming around for a minute, but I don't know what you got going on at home, but you can't be acting like this in here. I just can't have you back."
Yeah.
Like, because at some point, you can't make the medical decision for them, right?
Exactly.
We are not
You.
medical experts.
Yeah.
You got to go handle that yourself. But it's also tough because you want to be a good steward of the community, but you know that sending that person away, they're probably not going to take the steps to get the help. You know what I mean? And you know what probably comes after, and it sucks. And there's just nothing you can do about it. And I feel like that's probably what those organizers and stuff kind of got
Exactly.
trapped in.
And he did, finally issue some apologies for some of the things he had done. It was trying, to be on his best. Again, you could anybody, that I didn't know him personally, but you could tell looking at the videos and some of the things that went on that he was clearly struggling and probably certainly at the time that he was banned was not getting the help he needed. He may have, I don't know what happened afterwards because again he had been banned, but was still, talking to it. Because again, you form a lot of friends with these communities. Hungry Box, well known Smash player, mentioned he literally was on the plane in the air to go to the hospital and see him, and then got the message that he had passed.
Ah, that's tough.
I just so he
That's
still had a
tough.
lot of friends in the community and was trying, to work his way back. And Mewtwo King talked to his mom and said she's basically said, like, I feel like he died of a broken heart. He just didn't really feel like, his friends knew or could appreciate what he was going through. And certainly to some extent, we never know what anybody's, even if you think you know.
True.
We
True.
saw what was happening outwardly, but you don't know what's going on with somebody, that struggle, it's inside your own mind. We don't know what anybody else is going through. And just Daquan, I've talked about how, especially at the local level, a lot of times there's not a lot of money in these tournaments. There's not a lot of resources, but whether you're allotting those resources, it gets to a point where if you're on, somebody that's on YouTube all the time, on Twitch, on streams, or if you've already got issues, this is going to put even more, because it's hard enough to deal with your mental health when just your own personal group of friends is involved.
Yeah. And to your point, I think also I could see a world where whether what they're doing is right or not in a bad head state, you do get a lot of people that will encourage the bad behavior too.
Absolutely, because if you
You
look at
know?
the comments now, half the people are blaming the tournament organizers for his death. When again they were pushed to the point where they had no other option to take. Really,
Yeah.
you can tell it's probably something they gave him opportunities to apologize, but he was not at that time in the headspace where he was able to do that. It really was, again, as you talked about, when you're the person in charge, trying to run tournaments, trying to keep things on an even keel. Just, you can't have this. We've seen where something like this went down in a Madden tournament, and dude went to his car, got his gun, came back and shot the place up.
Yeah, that was
So
just like 2 years ago or
yeah,
3 years ago. Yeah.
so really, we have to, if you're somebody that's running a tournament or in control of a space, you have to make sure that space is secure. And when you see somebody struggling and speaking irrationally about another player, you have to take the step to make sure not only that the person they are harassing is safe, but that they're safe, that they
Yeah.
don't end up doing something they're going to regret later.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it's a tough spot. Like I said, I've been there. I don't envy anybody that's had to make that decision. But at the same time, like sometimes the right decision isn't the feel good decision.
Uh-uh.
And that's always the tough part.
But to end it on a positive note, I will say, in addition to all the who, we're going to be talking about whose fault people think it is from now to eternity.
Sure.
What it's also being shared, people are talking about how much love Hacks had for Smash Bros, how many great things they learned from him on characters, like Fox and Captain Falcon, that are really hard to play, and just how much they learned from and how much they enjoyed watching it. Because again, he was really an incredible player that just had a lot of issues off of the. I was starting to say off the field. I guess we could say field with
Yeah, I
esports.
get what you're saying.
Athlete, yeah,
Yeah, I agree with that. Like if there's somebody you do like, enjoy, whatever, like let them know. Don't wait till they pass to tell them.
absolutely,
Like that whole thing about giving their flowers now, like there's a reason that's a thing.
right.
Don't the one for me is how people treat Kobe, right? When he was Kobe, like, oh, he's terrible. I hate that guy, blah, blah, blah.
Why
Like
didn't he ever pass the ball?
the
All of
minute
that.
he died, like, well, I don't know, we don't talk about him as one of the greatest players. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, come on, y'all. Like, and especially on a local level, because like you're saying, those people don't necessarily know who likes them, who doesn't. They don't see a lot of the comments. They don't get a lot of the love. So, like, yeah, if you got somebody, hell, just tell people in your life in general
Right.
that you love them more often, for real. But yeah, swinging things more positively. This is fun. If you were somebody who was born in the late 70s, 80s, you probably played through a lot of the games that use the Konami code. Everybody knows the up, up, down, down.
Yeah.
Like people have used it for memes on things, whatever.
Absolutely.
The fun thing I found out, because I thought man, I probably played like 8 or 10 games where that code was in there, or I would just try it to see if it was because it was used
Yep.
or whatever. Turns out over 100 games have used that code for something, whether it's invulnerability, extra lives,
Right.
skipping levels, like whatever. Crazy to know that that has had that.
Passwords, the password to
Yeah,
unlock something.
yeah. The fact that that has had that much of a cultural impact in gaming is so surprising
Because for a
because,
while, Konami was putting in a lot of their games. They put in
oh, yeah.
Castlevania games. I want to say Contra's where it originally came from. I believe, right? It's Contra
Yep.
Code.
It was a Contra code initially. But yeah, I did.
Also, a little
Mhm.
tidbit: if you ever seen Wreck It Ralph, and if you're a gamer and haven't seen Wreck It Ralph, after you listen to the podcast, absolutely go do that.
Fun movie.
But it's actually King Candy's password to unlock one of his little secrets. So,
Yep. So just cool that, even something, not even a game, just a thing within a game
right.
became such a meme that everybody's used it and we see it throughout like gamer culture,
Yep.
society, cartoons. Like hell, Xavier Woods has a channel named after it that he plays video games
Exactly.
on, right? Like it's just that one, and nobody even questioned it. We all know what up down down is, right?
Those were some of
Go,
the first memes, really. If you said up, down, every gamer knew what you were talking about.
yeah, you didn't even say the whole code. You just go, oh, try up down down. Everybody goes, yeah, and then you just do the rest of it, right? Because we already know.
Somebody set us up the bomb. We
Yep.
just memes before we had memes.
So that's just such an interesting bit of culture because I think right now you have a lot of people trying to create meme culture. So like you're trying to do things that are memeable, but something like that none of us thought about really
Right.
just became a recurring thing that everybody used. So yeah, I don't know. I'll probably try to find the list of games or something just to see what they all are and if I actually recognize them because I think that'd be fun. But all right, let's get into some topics here because again, we have quite a few things to cover. So I do want to give a shout out here to content creator Jim Davis. If you know him, he's played on the Pro Tour for a while. Obviously, been doing content I think for 4 or 5 years now, or whatever, on YouTube. He's been doing it for quite a bit, but he's recently gone through some medical stuff, and he didn't talk about what the issue was, and even the few details he's given some of us, I don't want to put any extra out there that he doesn't want. I'll leave that to him. But it's bad enough that he made a video explaining that he probably won't be doing his regular content stuff for the better part of the next couple of weeks, at least. He's saying right now there's just a lot of pain, and he doesn't even know what the end looks like for the pain going away at this moment. So I don't know what it is. He doesn't want to talk about it, and that's fine. But the cool thing is, he's reached out to a few of us, and he said that pretty much everybody he's reached out to has been wanting to help. So we will be pitching in on his YouTube channel with various videos and things. So there's still something there and some amount of traffic or whatever helping him out
That's
between the little
cool.
bit he can record. So he can at least kind of stay on his feet because he's got a kid at home and, like he's got other stuff going on. So it's cool, and he's been very thankful, almost to the point of apologetic or whatever. But it's cool that you're at part of a community where you can do that. Because, man,
Yep.
I've played some games where if they weren't your for real homies, like that support wasn't coming from nowhere else.
Right.
So we're very lucky in that regard. So if you haven't checked him out, go pay some love to his social media. Check out his YouTube channel. Just Jim Davis, just like his name. Probably Jim Davis MTG. Make it easier to find.
It's also
But yeah,
cool that he has friends that want to support with the post. People are like, ooh, like Starscream, he's fallen.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. Sort of what
get
it felt
him.
like, though, right? It's like one of your mainstays in the community. You're like, man down. Like everybody pitch
Yeah.
in and help him out, get him on his feet. And it's cool to see that. We see it with, when the professor runs his trans lifeline thing
Yep.
to raise money, and that does like $1 million or
Right.
whatever. Everybody kind of comes to the aid of each other in the community. So as much as like we started talking about like the cheating and everything else that goes on, we also have all these positive elements where everybody's willing to help each other out in the community. And we've seen it with game stores,
Yep.
we've seen it with all kinds of stuff. So this is really cool. It's just a really nice thing, cool gesture to see. And hope Jim gets better because, man, anything that's bringing you that much pain where
Right.
you can barely sit up to record a thing, like that sucks.
Some of the worst people I have ever met have been in gaming, but thankfully, most of the best people I have ever met have also come from gaming.
Dude, preach for real. Like, that's absolutely true. On another interesting thing, one of the big trends we see with different brands is cookbooks. right? We've seen the Star Wars cookbook. We saw one for D&D a couple years ago. Like pretty much every nerd brand has. Hell, we saw Lord of the Rings one. Whatever. I'm gonna tell you right now. If you told me to list 10 nerd products that don't have a cookbook that will probably get one in 2025, I would not have guessed BattleTech.
No, that was not on my cookbook bingo card. It's the crazy thing that I need to have, but that's where we are.
Dude, for real, my first thought was like, what is it? A bunch of rations? Like it's BattleTech. Like, what do you
Oil, some energy,
Yeah.
conduits. I got nothing.
I was like, what do you even do? Now, admittedly, from the picture I saw of what there's, and I don't know if that's just a mock-up or whatever, but the picture I saw of it didn't even look like a thick cookbook. So
Yeah,
I don't know, but I will say BattleTech as a brand, they're like what, 35, 40 years old, it feels like at this point. They've been around forever.
you lie. Stop the cap. Stop the cap.
I'm just
Oh
saying, it's
God.
been around as long as I can remember.
Yeah, you're not
So
wrong. You're not at
so
all wrong.
there's obviously a fan base there, and they will
Mhm.
probably appreciate the cookbook. And there's probably some obvious stuff that I'm not deep enough in the
It's
lore to
almost
know
like
about.
Monopoly. It's probably become a thing you just gotta do if you're a brand. Is you gotta have a Monopoly now, a Monopoly game, and you gotta have a cookbook. This is the
Bro, for
law.
a second, I thought you were going to pitch a Monopoly cookbook, and I was like, let's talk about it.
That's probably easy if you think about all the different locations just in the regular Monopoly that all I'm sure have
You know what's funny? You could do cheap recipes for like Mediterranean or whatever, and
right,
then you
and
could do some
then
expensive recipes for like, well, you
yeah,
could do Wellington or whatever for like
right.
Park Place, right?
This is what a rich Uncle Pennybags eats when he takes all your money.
Exactly. But yeah, it's just weird. I until I saw this, I hadn't really thought about how ubiquitous cookbooks were for nerd products. But the more I thought about it, I was like, man, so many things do actually have cookbooks. I've seen a couple of them. So I mean, we might even own one of them. But it's just weird that BattleTech is the one that popped up with one. I would have
Yeah,
never guessed that. But we do have another positive here. Shadows Creed Shadow or Assassin's Creed Shadows. I almost got
there
that
you
wrong.
go.
It's like, but the game's doing very well, surprisingly. Now, it's not like gangbusters, best ever, but by their own measurements, they have posted that it is outpacing Odyssey and Origins, which were both very good games for
Yeah.
them. Top tier games for them.
For a game that had a Gamergate thing break out around it, this is a pleasant surprise for Ubisoft because I don't think anybody knew what was going to happen. Because, good lord, this is just never. Obviously, Gamergate has happened before, but for it to focus really on a specific character and a specific game, and this was wild. This just.
But dude, it's not even just that. Like the game was also pushed back, what, like 6 months or
Yeah,
something? So like even that's a different thing. And somehow, and this is credit to Ubisoft, because they also have all the legal stuff going on, and the company
yeah.
may be sold or may not be sold. Like that's all going on. But they somehow threaded the needle to find a window in time where there aren't major competing releases. There's social media teams on top of it, all the images, all the proper creators they reached out to, like their marketing around it. Like it's almost and credit because we talk about how much these video game companies mess stuff up all the time, right? But credit where it's due here because it feels like they were well aware of all the obstacles this game was going to have. And somewhere over the last 3, 4 months, their team was like, okay, we're going to put these ads out. We're going to run these commercials. We're going to post these on these websites. We're going to get these creators to do stuff. We're going to do this early access. We're going to do these things on social media. We have these memes prepped to share. Like they came out with the whole barrage of stuff to give it every chance possible. And in just a couple of days, they've gotten 2 million players.
And before the knuckleheads showed up, ancient your feudal Japan was the most the most requested setting for the franchise because it just fits perfectly in a game. It's about these broad reaching conspiracies and some assassin just kind of walking through the crowd and quietly murdering enemies. It's like, okay, ninja. When do
Yeah.
we get to be a ninja? It was just from pretty much game one. Like, I can't wait till they go to Japan. I can't wait till they go to Japan. And finally, yeah, we're here. And again, really,
But you know
all
what? This is another example of those people that were making the noise were full of crap.
yeah,
because they probably weren't people who were going to buy it anyway. They're just looking at something to attack or whatever. Some of those people that just want to be negative, like I was talking about
Exactly.
earlier. And the reality is, all the people that still wanted it apparently are turning up to buy it. Hell, more people are playing that because they're seeing the reviews and seeing the creators and seeing all the social media stuff and whatever. So they got it right. You know,
All the
that's
people are like, everything is woke now. A lot of the stuff you were complaining about was Star Wars was always woke.
bruh. I saw people complaining about them making because they were watching like X-Men 97, saying, oh, well, they just made X-Men woke. I'm like, bruh, mutants are literally the
Yeah,
direct allegory, like the direct, like you could connect
yeah.
racism to being a mutant, right? Like just a straight line. Like,
Everything Stan Lee and Jack Kirby weren't allowed to do in, the other comic books. Hey, X-Men. X-Men stand in for racism, stand in for all the prejudices.
oh, dude, it had everything. It had family issues. It had the Holocaust. It
They
had,
had one of the first openly
yeah,
gay superheroes.
absolutely.
X-Men has always been woke. It's just y'all. Star Trek, same thing.
Yep, yep.
Star Trek gave us, the first interracial kiss on TV. It was the only show on TV where you had a black person, a Russian person, everybody. The whole
Dude, Star
you had
Trek's literally about intercultural relations.
the deck of the
That's
Enterprise was a rainbow coalition and pretty much the only one you could see on TV in the 60s.
yeah, for the most part, with that many different like cultures built in, yeah, for sure.
Uhura was going to quit because the actor Nichelle Nichols, in her words, was tired of having nothing to do other than getting Captain Kirk's phone calls. And Martin Luther King called her and told her, "You cannot because
You're too important.
you are the only black woman on TV who is not a maid or a nanny. You
Yep.
have to keep doing this."
It's crazy, right? But it's so wild to watch these people that look at current nerd culture and say all this stuff's woke. And I'm like, all the things you like have been.
I got so wound up I unplugged myself. Y'all excuse me.
Yeah, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
everything you grew up enjoying was.
Yeah.
Now I say everything, a lot of it, right? Some
Yeah.
of it wasn't. It was just, entertainment, whatever. But a lot of it you liked because of those things. Like you may not even
Captain America.
realize it. Yeah.
Captain America is always, fighting to make sure the American dream applied to everybody.
Dude, his main villain is literally a Nazi.
Right?
I mean, like, what more do you want? Like, he is a literal Nazi.
And
Like,
there's a
okay.
great panel where a black soldier stops eating and Captain America borrows his fork and uses it and looks, like right at the racist and like, yeah, what?
Yeah, exactly.
America, you MFers. This is what America is about.
But that's why when the people showed up for Assassin's Creed Shadows, when I was following discussions, I always came back to, okay, but how do the actual Japanese feel about this? And they were cool with it. Like all the Japanese posts I could find, they were like explaining their cultural background and why it was cool. They're finally getting to be the focus of stuff. And I was like, okay, well, if they're cool with it, why do the rest of us give a damn?
Right?
Like legitly, like why? Like rest of us don't really have a say so. Either enjoy the game or not. Like you standing up for somebody who doesn't have a problem is weird. It's like when I see people jump in and go like, "Oh, but you shouldn't blah blah on black people." It's like, but I was cool with it. Like, why are you mad? Like, you should literally just looked at me and be like, "You good? Yeah, great. Let's go on." Like, there ain't no reason to even
No,
have a conversation.
to be offended for you, sir. You don't
Some
know
people
when you
try to
should be
be.
offended.
So yeah, I just want to use that to say, like, hey, as much as we've talked about these video game studios shutting down or making bad decisions or firing people, like Ubisoft, this could have been the death knell.
Yeah.
Like if this would have failed, they'd have been in bad shape. And credit to them, you've dodged a bullet. Not more than dodged a bullet. Like this might be an outright success. So good on them.
And in fairness, I think the last Assassin's Creed that was considered bad was Unity, and that's been probably at this point, almost 10 years ago. Assassin's Creed usually, they don't all get necessarily Game of the Year reviews, but they are pretty much always, a good seller, tell you a good story, and, have been, hits for Ubisoft for the most part.
Yeah, credit to them. One downer though, we do got to talk about a Secret Lair this week, man.
Yeah.
Uh, I think it's just one more time where we have to say, like, let's just go back to letting people just order whatever they need to order. Having these like limited quantity again, it's usually when it's limited quantities around the universes beyond stuff. That's usually where we run into problems because the system breaks down or it sells out too fast or whatever. And like, there's just always a problem, it seems like, until we got to the third iteration of one of the character and people realized they probably printed a little more. But generally speaking, nobody's really benefiting here because with the systems breaking down, one of two things are happening, right? Either one, it's a lot of bots and scripts or whatever going in trying to buy stuff, or you are legitly getting a ton of people who are interested who would like to buy it and can't. Neither of those is a good thing, right? Like the first one, we don't want stuff just going to people that are just going to resell it or whatever and taken away from the actual fans having a chance to buy it. That's just not good. No matter who it is, what the product is, whatever, it's not good. The other is if you legitly have exponentially more people trying to buy it that can actually buy it, again, we've said it before, you're just leaving money on the table. Like for you and your brand partner. Like it just doesn't make sense. I don't get it. One of the coolest things I saw, and we talked about this for a second. There's a comedian, Josh Johnson, that I followed for a few years, who's recently gotten really popular because he's been on the Daily Show and stuff. But he's starting to do more tours now. And one of the things he did recently is he went back into a couple of tour dates and he actually refunded a bunch of tickets that they believe were purchased by bots between like the time they were ordered and quantities and other stuff,
Yeah,
and just refunded the money and made those tickets available again for people who would like to actually just try to attend the show. Because he said it's not about the ticket price or the tickets being expensive. It's that when people are having to pay extra because the tickets never went to a person to begin with.
absolutely.
And that's sort of what it feels like here. It's like if you have this many fans and using SpongeBob because that's the most recent one
Yep.
as an example, as if there is that much crossover to where you felt it was worth paying whatever the $1 million is to get the license, or I don't know what it costs, but I'm sure it's
Yeah,
not
I'm
cheap.
sure.
If it's worth it, then you should want to maximize the money on it, right? Whether even if like the SpongeBob brand or whatever company owns it's getting 20%, 25%, whatever, great. They make more money if you sell more. Like, I don't understand. And if it's a production thing, then just fix production and then make a pile of money. Like that's the part that's just bugging me. Like it's a bad experience to the point that, and I'm one of them, but I've also talked to a lot of other people that anytime there's Universes Beyond thing, I just don't even attempt to buy it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not waking up 8, 9 o'clock, try to hop into a queue that may or may not actually happen, or it'll break down, or I'll be sitting around for an hour to not even get anything, or the thing I want is sold out by the time I could buy something anyway. Like, it's just not worth the experience. I wanted some of the Marvel ones, but I already knew as soon as I saw it, I'm like, it ain't no chance. So I just went about my day and I just asked around, like, hey, has anybody got a spare uh Black Panther one? Because I can at least put that in my +1/+1 counters deck. And I was able to buy one at cost off somebody. That was a better attempt. And if not, I'd have just went and bought a single and just F the other cards. Like, so yeah, it's a bad experience, man. I don't this just keeps happening. Do you think there's any other solution here other than going back to just open
But
ordering? Because we don't have a problem when they do that.
I mean, everything we talked about, the trade war is about to hit it. So even probably if they want to do
Uh
that, they probably won't be able to.
yeah, that gets even worse. Because I assume the only options are you're gonna have to print more within the continent you plan to ship it in. So they're
Yeah,
mostly gonna have to be printed in the US. And then I would assume if this gets bad politically, if you're from outside the US, you might just say, hey, you might not get it for 8 more weeks or whatever, 12 more weeks. I don't know what that's gonna be.
yeah. Because on top of it, I have no idea what it would cost them to ramp up production to that level. They may, and again, whatever the cost is, may increase depending on tariffs and things. And so
Yeah,
it's
that's
a
a whole other
bizarre
level.
time right now.
Yeah,
I'm hearing
gamers
all
are not gonna be doing well for a couple years.
they're saying the Switch is supposed to launch, I think, sometime this summer. And yeah, I know I'm going to need to get one, but God, I know it's going to be a nightmare. It'll
It's probably
probably
gonna come with an extra $30 price tag attached to it.
oh 30.
I was gonna say at
Okay.
least 30.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's gonna be the low end because if it's 25%, then hell, you're probably gonna be looking at an extra $50 to $75 on it.
Oh
That's
yeah,
crazy,
easily.
you know? So yeah, it's doesn't get better under the system. So we got to figure something out. But as we get close to wrapping things up here, let's talk about kind of a fun conversation here. Because we talk a lot about gaming and, having time or whatever, but here's a question, and I don't know how you're going to answer this, honestly. But while between us, we're trying to balance work and family and other things, what do your typical game sessions look like now? And however you want to talk about it, whether it's how often, the length of time, how many people, is it family, is it friends? Like, I don't know what that looks like for you.
Well, just so what I learned when I first started writing game reviews is, and I want to say that was Game World Network is probably the first place I started doing regular reviews. They said, really, they felt like the minimum you had to put into a game to be able to effectively review it, it seemed like a good number to me, was 8 hours. And
Okay.
really, that sounds good. If you're talking about RPG, you're just getting started in
Oh
8
yeah,
hours.
yeah, yeah. You're talking at least 20 hours, to be
Yeah,
honest.
so that's a thing. But I've always said no matter how little fun I'm having, I always make sure I give every game at least 8 hours. Now that may not always be in one sitting, depending on what else is going on. Because there have been times where I've had 2 or 3 reviews hidden in one. Because sometimes there would just be things like at a Gamertale, I became, they knew I was into comic books. Anytime they got licensed comic book trash, hey, give it to Brian. If got a comic book in it, he'll play it. But
Yeah.
yeah, let's be honest, most comic book and most licensed games are garbage. So there'd be times I'd have 2 or 3 of them piled up, and they didn't complain because nobody else wanted them.
Yep. You just get them when you get them. So, like, what do you do now as far as like, are you gaming more with family? Are you still getting to go out and do stuff to game, or what does your game time look like when it's not just for work?
That is the thing. They're all, because if anything interesting happens, I'm gonna stop and make a note of it and try to write about it. So it's just like I have to sometimes make myself play things that I don't think are going to be for content, and then again, something content related will inevitably happen. So just now we sometimes it is a house full of gamers. So like we play Smash Bros for fun. Well, I say we play for fun, but then my kids sometimes go to tournaments, so that kind of almost becomes a job too. But
Like, Dad, I'm trying to practice. You got to be better. Like-
right, and yeah, they've gone so far beyond me. I'm no longer even good practice unless me and Tish team up and try to attack one of the kids, and we still
you
a lot of
you're
times
the
kill.
practice for the round one opponents.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know. Mine is kind of all over the place depending on what I have going on at any given time. Like, obviously, I do a lot of Magic Arena and stuff because
Yeah,
I have the daily videos, but I try to play some like Team Fight Tactics. I think I mentioned that before. That's like one of my
yeah,
downtime games. I've been streaming some Baldur's Gate 3 with a couple of folks. That's pseudo work.
yeah,
And then after that, it kind of just depends. I've been doing board gaming, every few weeks or so. We'll have some friends over, we'll play with family, bust some games out and play that. I'll hit up a local game store, average about once a month, go down either for a pre release or just play like a Friday night thing or something. But that's kind of it these days. I'm not doing like a crazy amount, right? Because I spend so much time, like literally in front of the computer, 10, 12, sometimes 14 hours a day, working on stuff. So, like, the time isn't there. But I do still game so I can stay in touch, still talk to the communities, still get out and show stuff off if I have like brand partners or whatever. But yeah, it's just different than it was. There was a time where I wanted to play every weekend. I try to travel to tournaments, try to do this. And it's just like, not able to. I got life and job requires different things now
yeah.
and different types of gaming, right? Like, I don't do, like, we talked about it before. I might look at 10 or 12 games a year that look really sweet video game
Right.
wise, but I'm going to really put time into like one or two, right? Like, that's just the way it is. Like, there's a lot of sweet games that have come out in the last 4 or 5 years that I have not played 1 minute of.
We've
Not
been
because I
talking.
think they're bad. I just don't have
Right.
time.
We've been talking about Grand Theft Auto 6. I still haven't beaten Grand Theft Auto 5, and don't know that it'll happen anytime soon.
Oh, there's tons of games I don't even start because I know better. I'm just like, I know I wouldn't get more than halfway through this, so
But
I'm just not
also,
going to
when
bother.
you play a game like Grand Theft Auto, there are so many different side quests to where I know I'm definitely somebody that gets distracted. But I remember when I played, I forget which Elder Scrolls it is, but there's one that has a battle arena. Oh my god, I forgot about the main quest.
Mm.
I wanted to go to the battle arena and be Russell Crowe.
Bruh, that's me on Final Fantasy. Like the two
Yeah,
times I get when I was trying to get the golden chocobo
right.
with the chocobo races and then Blitzball. Like
Yes, I
those
love Blitzball so much.
those two things seriously put me in a chokehold where I just didn't care about the rest of the game.
That's if you put any kind of card game, or I would say any kind of fake sport in your game, that's where I'll go. And that's
Dude, I must have played each of those for I don't even want to think about. I probably spent a month worth of game hours on each of those. Easy.
I weakness for any kind of anime, soccer type stuff, which I guess Blitzball falls into. Like I just found out that Ronaldo is going to be a character in Fatal Fury.
That's funny.
As wild as that, so yeah, at some point I'm playing that. I don't know how much I'll. Again, Braden is the one that's good at fighting games. I'm not. I'll write about it a bit, but yeah, he'll work on the technical stuff. He'll tell me what's good. I'm going to be playing that primarily for the fun.
Actually, I just thought of something. For the games I usually pick for like that year, whatever I'm going to play, are usually the ones I'm going to put a lot of time into. So
Yeah.
that's my regular downtime game as I have it. Like right now, it's Baldur's Gate 3. We're almost done with it, but
Yep.
that one, by the time I'm done, I'll have 100 and I don't know 20 hours ish into that
Oh,
thing.
easily, and you still won't have
You know?
done everything.
Oh yeah. Or I have other stuff that I can play in short bits, whether it's like
Yep.
Marvel Snap, Balatro,
Definitely.
whatever. They're like, okay, I got 15, 20 minutes. Let's see if we can knock out a game or something.
I got Snap too because, like I said, anything superhero related, I'm going to at least try.
Yeah. So those are probably my two options. The stuff that's in that mid range of like 30-hour game, 50-hour game, I probably don't look at a lot of those because I
Yeah.
won't come back to them enough to really be immersed in the story and take advantage of it. But they're also long enough that I can't play it in really short bits.
Yep.
And let me
Definitely.
tell you, if I know your game has a bunch of cutscenes, I'm out. I'm out. Like, dude, I realize the first time it got me was on Xenogears, way back when on like
Yeah.
PS2 or whatever. When I had like an hour and a half before work, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna hop in, play a little bit, dude. In an hour and a half, I played 18 minutes. It was cutscene, play for like 6 or 8 minutes, another cutscene, played for like 10 minutes, another cutscene. I didn't even get to finish the cutscene before I had to turn it off and go to work. I'm
Right.
just like, I'm out. I can't do it. And don't be wrong, even on newer games, they are beautiful
Yeah,
scenes.
definitely.
Like they look excellent. But at that point, just sell me the story and let me watch it online. Like I just want to play a game, man. That's all. But all right. All that being said, where can they find you when you're not doing the show, Brian?
All right. App Trigger is on Blue Sky. It's also an actual website. You can stop by and read my content and other people's content, by the way.
Yeah, help our boy pay his bills. And you can find me everywhere at PowrDragn, PowrDragn. I believe next week there's going to be the streamer event for Tarkir Dragonstorm. I've got some other stuff coming up related to that. Otherwise, just follow us and help us out. But wherever you are watching or listening, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Please remember to take care of yourselves and your family. Remember to be awesome. And right now, more than ever, be awesome to each other.